All right, folks, listen up and grab your snacks because this story isn't just hot. It's hotter than a habanero in a sauna wearing a leather jacket. The United States just parked an Armada off the coast of Venezuela, pointed every cannon, jet, and submarine at Nicolás Maduro, and said, "Congrats, buddy. You've officially made America's most wanted list with a $50 million price tag." Yep, $50 million. That's not a bounty. That's a Netflix true crime doc waiting to happen. And here's the wild part. This isn't just about stopping drugs. This could explode into the biggest military showdown in the Americas since the Cuban Missile Crisis. So let's start at the beginning. The U.S. government has officially branded Venezuelan dictator Nicolás Maduro a narco-terrorist. That's not just a diss. It's the legal cheat code that lets the U.S. military treat you like bin Laden with worse facial hair. Maduro is accused of being the ringleader of the Cartel of the Suns, a cocaine pipeline so massive it makes Amazon's logistics look lazy. We're talking tons of powder streaming into the U.S., allegedly with Maduro's fingerprints all over it. To really rub salt in the wound, the Trump administration announced a $50 million bounty for anyone who delivers him. That's more than the combined net worth of most of Venezuela's cabinet. For perspective, Pablo Escobar at his peak had a $10 million bounty. Osama bin Laden, $25 million. Maduro's bounty is double that. He's basically been upgraded from dictator to DLC supervillain. And here's the thing. When America puts that kind of price tag on your head, you're not just a nuisance anymore. You're a walking bullseye, which makes you wonder, what happens when the world's strongest military decides to collect? So what does America do? Do they send negotiators? Nope, they send in the USS Iwo Jima, which is basically the Swiss Army knife of destruction. This bad boy is like a floating city of nope. It's got F-35B stealth fighters, tilt-rotor Ospreys that look like they were designed by drunk transformers, and helicopters so huge they could probably airlift your cousin's house and drop it on another cousin's house. But the Iwo Jima doesn't roll solo. It's flanked by 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. Those are the ones loaded with missiles like they're hoarding them for Black Friday. Then there's a Ticonderoga-class cruiser, which is basically a floating pile of rockets. And just for giggles, a Los Angeles-class nuclear submarine lurking below the waves like Jaws, if Jaws had 12 Tomahawk launchers strapped to its back. And let's be clear, they didn't bring this much firepower to play Coast Guard bingo. Rolling up with this fleet to fight drug smuggling is like showing up to a piñata party with an M1 Abrams tank. Meanwhile, Marines from the 22nd MEU are in Puerto Rico practicing amphibious landings in tropical terrain. Totally random, totally coincidental, definitely not rehearsing for Venezuela, which just so happens to look exactly the same. So the million-dollar question is, if this is about cocaine, why does it look like we're prepping for World War III in flip-flops? Then came the moment when the mask dropped. The U.S. carried out what they called a lethal strike against a Venezuelan drug vessel tied to the Tren de Aragua cartel. Translation, they didn't just intercept it, they turned it into a pile of kindling at the bottom of the ocean. 11 cartel operatives gone, courtesy of Uncle Sam's War on Drugs Extended Edition. This wasn't a stop the boat, we have questions situation. Nope, this was a boom goes the dynamite situation. So now the gloves are off. America isn't just seizing drugs, they're unleashing the kind of firepower usually reserved for Bond villains. And if they're willing to pull the trigger once, you have to ask, what happens when they set their sights a little higher? Like, say, Venezuelan naval bases. All right, let's run the simulation. If a war actually broke out, here's what it could look like. Step 1. Marine helicopters storm cartel compounds along the Venezuelan coast. Imagine Narcos, but directed by Michael Bay. Step 2. F-35 stealth jets erase Maduro's aging Russian Sukhoi jets from the sky faster than you can say, made in Moscow. Step 3. Amphibious assault vehicles crash onto beaches like an angry swarm of armored rhinos. Meanwhile, a blockade cuts off Venezuela's supply lines. Their economy is already one broken tire away from collapse. A U.S. blockade would be like kicking the last Jenga block out from under a collapsing tower. And if it escalates further, special forces dropping into the jungle to raid cartel drug labs. Picture Rambo 3, except with night vision, drones, and 2020's hardware. Sounds extreme, right? But here's the scary part. The Pentagon has wargamed all of this already. Which raiseth the question, what's Maduro going to do when the storm actually hits? Now, Maduro isn't exactly shrinking into a corner. He's out there calling this an imperial provocation and claiming it's the greatest threat to Latin America in 100 years, which is cute, especially considering the last century had Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, and about 47 coups. He swears he's mobilized 4.5 million militia members. On paper, terrifying. In reality, most of them are holding rifles that should be in a museum. Half probably don't even have ammo. It's less professional fighting force and more angry cosplay convention. Maduro also claims the U.S. has 1,200 missiles and a nuclear submarine aimed at Venezuela, which sounds terrifying until you realize, yeah, that's basically Tuesday for the U.S. Navy. It's like complaining that Starbucks has coffee, and yet he's out there chest-thumping, warning Trump that this could spark a continent-wide war. But let's be real. Does Maduro actually have the firepower to back this up? Or is this just him auditioning for a Latin American remake of Braveheart? Here's the cold truth. Venezuela's military has about 120,000 active troops. But corruption runs so deep, you could probably bribe half of them with a sandwich and a bus ticket. Their Russian gear? Falling apart. Their navy? Half their ships don't leave port because they can't afford the fuel. Their air defenses? Outdated enough to qualify as antiques. Meanwhile, the U.S. has Marines sharpening their bayonets next door, stealth jets on deck, and a submarine somewhere in the Caribbean that could probably sink the entire Venezuelan fleet before they finish breakfast. It's not a fair fight. It's like showing up to a knife fight and realizing the other guy brought the Death Star. So the bigger question becomes, is this even about Venezuela at all? Or is the U.S. sending a warning to everyone else watching? Because let's be honest, this whole thing isn't just about drugs. It's about sending a giant, flashing neon sign to the rest of the world. To cartels in Mexico, you're next. To regimes cozying up to Russia and China, this could be you. To everyone else in the neighborhood, the sheriff's back in town, and he brought a very large gun. This isn't just counter-narcotics, it's geopolitical theater. A show of force meant to remind the world that the U.S. can park an armada on your doorstep at any time and dare you to blink. And whether it ends at a dramatic showdown, a quiet stalemate, or just another season of Maduro versus reality, one thing's clear. The Caribbean just became the hottest flashpoint in the Western Hemisphere. So there you have it. A dictator with a $50 million bounty on his head, an American armada loaded for bear, and the very real possibility of war breaking out just a few hours' flight from Miami. Will Maduro fall? Will the U.S. actually pull the trigger on regime change? Or is this all just a giant warning shot meant to scare every narco-terrorist and rival regime into hiding? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, this story, it's nowhere near over. End of transmission.